I was driving past my daughter's townhouse when I noticed my wife's car parked right in front, a white Tesla that should have been sitting in our garage at home. At first, I thought I was mistaken. I even slowed down, leaned closer to the wheel, and blinked twice. But the license plate was hers. Clean, silver frame, little Live Bold tag she bought last year. My chest tightened before my mind could reason why. Claire had told me she'd be gone for the weekend, a psychology conference in Chicago. Her husband, Ryan, said he'd be staying home to catch up on casework. My wife, Mara, had said she was running errands in town. So why was her car here? I turned the corner, parked halfway down the next block, and killed the engine. For a few seconds, I just sat there, staring through the windshield at the shadow of the Tesla at the gate. The street was calm, mailboxes lined in neat rows, a sprinkler ticking softly somewhere. Nothing screamed wrong, but everything felt wrong. I got out of the truck. My shoes crunched against the gravel. The spring air had that heavy, still quiet that comes right before rain. I walked slowly toward the townhouse, keeping close to the hedge that ran along the front lawn. My heartbeat was loud enough that I could hear it in my ears. Claire's place looked normal, blinds half closed, front light off, the same blue pot of flowers by the steps. But as I climbed the short path to the window, I heard voices. Muffled at first, then clearer. Once he signs the trust papers, everything moves clean, a man was saying. His tone was cool, careful. It was Ryan, my son-in-law. Then came another voice, softer, low, familiar in a way that made my stomach turn. Mara, my wife. Don't worry, she said. He still trusts me completely. Evan doesn't even look at half the things he signs. He thinks I'm helping him manage it all. I froze beside the window, not daring to breathe. Good, Ryan said. Then we keep it simple. You play the calm, patient wife. Once we file, you'll walk away with half the assets. Maybe more if we prove emotional stress. Mara laughed quietly. After 20 years of pretending to care about his late nights, I deserve that much. The sound hit me harder than the words. That laugh used to mean home. Now it meant something else, a sound of victory over me. I stepped closer to the half-open window, careful not to be seen. Through the small gap in the curtain, I saw her sitting on my daughter's couch, my wife of 2 decades, legs crossed, tapping her nails on a manila folder resting on her lap. Ryan sat across from her, sleeves rolled up, tie loose, the kind of comfortable posture that said they'd been there a while. The timing's perfect, Ryan said. File by June, cite irreconcilable differences. The new statute guarantees division right down the middle. He won't contest, he's too proud. And he still thinks I love him, Mara replied. I felt the blood drain from my face. I was close enough now to smell her perfume, the same one I bought her last Christmas. The words blurred for a second, my vision swimming. Then, clear again. He's predictable, Ryan said. And once it's official, we sell off his company shares and liquidate what's in the trust. I'll handle the filings quietly. Ryan, she said, lowering her voice. What about Claire? He shrugged. She doesn't need to know. We'll keep it civil until after the papers are signed. By then, she'll be too busy working to ask questions. A cold wind brushed my face. I pressed myself against the brick wall. My hand shook as I reached into my pocket and unlocked my phone. I hit record. The tiny red light glowed on the screen. I held the phone close to the window, my pulse pounding so hard it made the phone tremble. 20 years of loyalty, Mara continued. And he never once questioned me. He doesn't even know I've been moving things for months. You've done well, Ryan said. By the time he figures it out, it'll all be legal. A noise escaped my throat, something between a gasp and a breath. I caught it too late. A twig cracked under my shoe. Inside, chairs scraped against the floor. Did you hear that? Mara's voice snapped, sudden and sharp. Ryan stood up. Probably a neighbor. No, she said quickly. Someone's outside. I pressed my back harder against the wall, holding my breath. Ryan's shadow crossed the window, close enough to blur against the blinds. For one awful second, I saw the shape of his head tilt toward me. Then he turned back. You're paranoid, he said. Nobody's here. He's probably still on site, measuring beams or whatever he does all day. Mara sighed. He'll come by tonight, like always. He still thinks I'm running errands. Her words turned my stomach. I stayed frozen until I heard them sit down again and resume their quiet plotting. When I finally backed away from the window, my legs felt weak. I turned, walked quickly down the path, and didn't look back. Once I reached my truck, I climbed in, shut the door, and sat in silence. My hands were shaking so hard that I had to rest them on my knees. Then I pressed play. Their voices poured through the speaker. Calm, precise, poisonous. Each sentence chipped away another piece of the life I thought I knew. I let the recording run for 30 seconds before stopping it. My heart was hammering, but beneath the hurt, a sharper thought began to form. They thought I was the fool. They thought I'd never see the board. But the game had just changed. I drove without remembering the turns, my hands moving on instinct while my mind replayed every word. By the time I reached my workshop, the sky had turned a flat gray and a light drizzle tapped against the windshield. I parked behind the half-built porch swing my crew had started last week and sat there, engine idling, staring at nothing. Inside the cab, the recording was still open on my phone. I pressed play again, just to be sure I hadn't imagined it. Mara's voice came through clear and steady. He doesn't even look at half the things he signs. He trusts me with everything. Then Ryan. That trust is leverage. It's cleaner when they think they're helping. I stopped it there. The sound of it made my ribs tighten. I built Mercer renovations from a single truck and a set of borrowed tools. 20 years of blueprints, splinters, and missed dinners. Every piece of it had her fingerprints on the checks, the taxes, the signatures. I'd thought we were a team. Now I could see it. I'd been building her escape route the entire time. The rain thickened. I killed the ignition and got out, walking through puddles to the side door of the shop. Inside, the place smelled like pine and motor oil. The fan hummed in the corner, and for a moment that steady sound kept me upright. I set my phone on the workbench, pressed my palms to the cool metal, and let myself breathe. My mind wanted to go wild, to picture her laughing, to picture him touching her, but anger that big doesn't help. I've lived long enough to know the difference between emotion and movement. So I made myself stand still until the shaking stopped. Then I said it out loud, the way I'd talk through a project. Secure the frame first. It's the same rule in building. Before you do the fancy work, you make sure what holds the weight is solid. I pulled out a notepad and drew a square in the middle. Inside, I wrote, Mercer renovations. From there, lines spidered out, bank accounts, trust fund, real estate holdings, vendor contracts, payroll accounts. I circled every place Mara's name sat beside mine. I didn't know yet what her endgame was, but I knew I had to move first. My accountant, Jess, had been with me since year one. She was the only person I trusted with numbers more than I trusted myself. I called her personal line. Evan, you alive? She answered, half laughing. It's after hours. I need you, I said. Something in my tone must have stopped her. What's wrong? Someone's about to run a con on me, I said. Quietly. I need a full sweep. Assets, accounts, signatures. And I need it before sunrise. There was silence, then paper rustling. You're serious? Very. All right. Email me everything you've got. Password protected. I'll start tonight. Thanks, Jess. Evan, you okay? I looked at the red recording light still glowing on my phone. I'm done being stupid, I said. When we hung up, I stared around the shop. Every beam and joint felt like a memory. The old sawhorse I'd kept from my first contract. The dented thermos she'd given me before our wedding. Even the clock she insisted would class up the place. All of it had stories. All of it suddenly felt like evidence. The phone buzzed. Mara still out? I can make something quick for dinner. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I typed, running late. Don't wait up. Then I switched off the ringer. On the wall above my bench hung a pegboard of tools. Level, hammer, square. I reached for the chalk we used to mark joints and wrote on the concrete beside it. 1. Freeze everything. 2. Verify access. 3. Collect proof. It looked like a blueprint. That calmed me. I opened my laptop and began logging into each account. Every password I changed felt like a door slamming shut. When I reached the family trust, I saw her recent login timestamp. Yesterday, 2:11 p.m. She'd already been moving. I rerouted the authentication to my phone and set it to manual approval only. If she tried again, I'd know. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. I shut the laptop and leaned back in my chair. The rain on the metal roof turned steady, soothing. I thought about calling Claire, warning her, telling her that her husband was playing lawyer with her mother's conscience. But then I saw her face, the one she made when she thought two people she loved were fighting. I couldn't do that yet. Not until I had proof clean enough to hold in front of a judge. So I sat there and listened to the storm. By the time the rain stopped, it was past 10. I drove home. The world washed pale under the streetlights. Our house looked the same as it always did. Porch light on, curtains drawn, the faint glow of the TV through the den window. I parked in the driveway and walked up the steps. My hand hesitated on the doorknob. Inside, Mara was curled on the couch with a blanket and a half-empty glass of wine. "You're late," she said, smiling softly. "I was about to text you again." "Had to finish a job," I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. She reached for the remote, muting the TV. "Long week, huh?" "Yeah." She patted the couch beside her. "Come sit." I did. The cushions dipped under our weight, the way they always had. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Her hair still smelled like the shampoo I'd bought her last month. "Everything okay?" she asked. I looked down at her hand resting on mine, at the ring I'd placed there 20 years ago, and wondered when exactly it had stopped meaning what it used to. "Everything's fine," I said. "I just need a few days to clear my head." She smiled, satisfied. "You work too hard." When she finally went to bed, I stayed where I was, staring at the blank TV screen until it reflected my own face back at me. Then I reached for my phone, replayed the first few seconds of the recording, and slipped it into my pocket. They thought I'd go quietly. They thought wrong. Morning light bled through the blinds before I realized I hadn't slept. The clock read 6:42 a.m. The space beside me in bed was cold. I heard the hum of the coffee maker downstairs and the faint clink of a spoon. Mara's routine hadn't changed. That was her gift, keeping everything ordinary while she built storms behind my back. I showered, dressed, and came down to find her standing at the counter scrolling through her phone. She smiled when she saw me, easy and casual, like last night had never happened. "Coffee's fresh," she said. "You've got that meeting at 8, right?" "Yeah," I answered. My voice was calm, steady. "Shouldn't take long." She slid my mug across the counter. "You look pale. Everything okay?" "I didn't sleep much," I said. She came around, kissed my cheek. "You work too hard, Evan. You need to take a break once in a while." I nodded, pretending to agree. I didn't trust my voice not to crack. When I left, she waved from the porch like any loving wife. The sight of it made something twist inside me. I drove off, taking the long way to the office, thinking about how many years she'd rehearsed that wave. At the shop, Jess was already there, sitting on a stool with her laptop open. She'd brought 2 coffees and a stack of printouts. "You weren't kidding," she said. "You've got a problem." She spread the papers across the table, bank statements, account histories, recent logins. She's been quietly moving cash to a new account at another branch. Same bank, different city. You wouldn't have noticed unless you compared routing numbers. "How much?" 52 grand so far, she said. Little transfers over the last 4 months. Small enough to look like bill payments. I ran my hand down my face. "She's building her war chest." Jess nodded. "Looks that way. Can we freeze them?" "Not yet. You need cause. But you can flag them. That way you get a ping the second she moves again." I nodded. "Do it." She hesitated. "Evan, do you want me to call my brother?" "He's a PI. Quiet, discreet." I looked at her. "Yes. Have him dig into Ryan. Everything public and private. The man's a lawyer. He's got to have skeletons." Just made a note. "You're thinking offense." I'm thinking defense with sharp edges. When she left, I sat staring at the printouts. The numbers didn't just represent money. They represented hours, sweat, weekends missed, birthdays cut short. All of it turned into digits she was siphoning away. Around 9:30, my phone buzzed. "Mara, how's the meeting?" "Good," I replied, heading to the site after. "Don't forget dinner with the Donovans tonight," she wrote. 6 sharp. She still played the part. Of course she did. I drove to the site anyway, if only to keep my hands busy. My crew was laying the last trusses on a lake house project. The rhythm of work, hammers, saws, the smell of cut wood, helped me think. When I got back to my truck, there was a missed call from an unknown number. A voicemail waited. "This is Mark Jessup," the voice said. "Jess told me to call. You wanted to look into Ryan Peters. Call me back." I did. "Ryan's got debt," Jessup said after a pause. "Student loans north of 180 grand, late payments on 2 credit cards, and a car lease he's behind on. But that's not the juicy part." I'm listening. "He's been moving client retainer money into his personal account, probably to stay afloat. It's a violation. Not provable yet, but close. The state bar doesn't like that sort of thing." I felt something tighten in my chest. Not pain this time, just focus. "Keep digging. I want paper trails, not rumors. You'll have them by tomorrow." When I hung up, the first real spark of satisfaction hit. Ryan wasn't as clever as he thought. By noon, I had an outline forming in my head. I opened my notebook and wrote. Plan. 1. Secure assets. Done. 2. Document financial misconduct. In progress. 3. Control the narrative before they do. At 3 p.m., Jess called again. She moved another 1,000. Flag triggered. "She's testing me," I said. "She's testing the water," Jess replied. "Wants to know if you're watching." "I am." After work, I drove home early. The neighborhood looked peaceful, but peace is a mask once you know what's hiding behind the windows. I parked and watched the house for a minute before getting out. Through the kitchen window, I saw Mara humming while she chopped vegetables. She looked exactly like the woman I'd met at that bakery 20 years ago. If someone walked by right then, they'd see a good marriage. I walked inside, smiled, kissed her cheek. "Smells good." "Roast chicken," she said, cheerful. "Your favorite." I poured myself water and leaned against the counter. "Did you get everything done in town?" She didn't even blink. "Just errands. You know how it is." "Sure," I said softly. "I know exactly how it is." She looked up. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," I said, smiling. "I'm just tired." She studied me a second longer, then went back to chopping. "You're working too hard again." "Yeah," I said. "That's me." Later, while she showered, I pulled up the home Wi-Fi router and checked connected devices. Her phone had synced twice in the past hour to a laptop I didn't recognize. Ryan's. The name was there in the list, Peter's MacBook Pro. I took a photo of the screen and emailed it to myself. Evidence. Every small piece mattered. When Mara came downstairs, hair damp, smiling, I forced my face to match hers. We sat, ate, and talked about nothing. She didn't notice that I barely touched my food. After dinner, she started cleaning the dishes. I washed her hands, steady, graceful, capable of so much harm while looking so kind. She turned. "You're quiet tonight." "Just thinking about work," I said. She smiled gently. "You always are." And she went back to scrubbing. I went upstairs, locked the office door, and opened my email. Jess had sent the preliminary dossier from her brother, scan bar complaints, debt notices, 2 affidavits from contractors claiming Ryan hadn't paid them for legal fees he'd already collected. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling fans spinning lazy circles above me. They'd planned to dismantle my world piece by piece. Now I'd build a new one with their mistakes. Tomorrow, the quiet war would start for real. The next morning felt too bright. The sun came in strong through the blinds, and for a moment I thought about closing them, hiding the day, pretending nothing existed outside this house. But that's what she was counting on. Me staying predictable, staying quiet. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with my phone. Jess had sent another message overnight. Subject, got him. Inside were screenshots of transfers from Ryan's trust account to his personal checking. Spread across 6 months. Clean, time-stamped, traceable. If a lawyer steals from clients, the Bar Association doesn't need gossip. It needs math. Jess had given them math. I texted her. Good work. Hold it close. She wrote back a single line. You ready to turn the screw? I was. I drove into town early, parking in front of Davenport First National. Tom Bradley, the branch manager, had been my banker for 15 years. I knew how to talk his language. Morning, Tom, I said when he waved me in. You look like a man with a problem, he said, half joking. I want to tighten security on every joint account, personal and business. Identity verification freeze, dual signature requirement, all of it. No transactions until both parties appear in person with ID. He blinked. That's heavy protection. I'm feeling cautious. He studied me a beat too long, then nodded. Paperwork's straightforward. It'll lock everything for 72 hours pending confirmation. Do it now. He printed the forms. I signed. He signed. The system hummed. When I left the bank, my phone buzzed with the first notification. Joint account access suspended pending verification. At 11:15, another buzz, then another. By noon, Mara's cards had been declined 3 times. The first text came while I was driving to the lumberyard. Mara. Evan, my card isn't working. Is there a problem? Me. Probably a system update. I'll check. 2 minutes later. Mara, it's embarrassing. I was at the store. Me. Call them. Should clear soon. I could picture her in line, smiling at the cashier while heat crawled up her neck. Not satisfaction, clarity. She'd built this story of control, of being the calm one. Now she'd feel what real control looked like. By the time I got back to the shop, Jess was waiting with 2 coffees. You did it, she said. She's rattled. Oh yeah? 3 failed charges. 1 attempted transfer to that secret account you flagged. Blocked. I leaned on the counter. Ryan. Different kind of panic, she said. He just wired 12 grand to his own firm's escrow. Guess who's monitoring that firm's books? Your brother. Exactly. I almost smiled. The chessboard was tilting. That night, Mara came into the living room holding her phone tight enough to whiten her knuckles. The bank says all our accounts are frozen, she said. Did you do something? I looked up from the TV. Routine audit. Identity protection. Without telling me, I shrugged. You said I handle the finances. Her mouth opened, then closed. You could have warned me. It's temporary. She stood there, confused anger mixing with fear. I could see her brain working, calculating how much I might know. She walked off, muttering something about calling the bank herself. I muted the TV and listened to her voice rise in the kitchen, polite, then defensive, then cold. She hung up fast. That night, when she came to bed, she didn't touch me. I didn't touch her either. We lay there in the dark, 2 people pretending sleep, both planning next moves. At sunrise, Jess called. He's cracking. Ryan tried to withdraw from a shared account under his firm's name. Blocked. Then he called the bank 3 times demanding access. They're flagging him for potential mismanagement. Perfect, I said. Let it simmer. At 9, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. You think you're clever, old man? This is harassment. Ryan. He'd broken his cool voice. I saved the number and didn't reply. Minutes later, another text came through. Mara, we need to talk. I waited 2 hours before answering. Me? About what? Mara, about what you're doing. You're freezing everything. This isn't healthy. Me? We'll discuss it tonight. That afternoon, I met Jess and her brother Mark at a small cafe. Mark slid a folder across the table. Clean paper, numbered exhibits. 3 contractors, he said. All filed complaints about unpaid funds. I've already tipped the state bar with documentation. When do they act? 2 weeks tops. I nodded. Keep monitoring his correspondence. I want to know when they contact him. You planning to go public? Jess asked. Not yet. Let him sweat. Let her feel the silence. They'll make mistakes when they think I'm doing nothing. That night, Mara waited for me by the door. We can't live like this, she said. You're being irrational. I'm being careful, I replied. She crossed her arms. Is this about money or control? I looked her dead in the eye. Both. She flinched. You're scaring me, Evan. That's interesting, I said quietly. You didn't look scared yesterday when you were at Claire's. Her expression froze, the color draining from her face. What are you talking about? You tell me. She tried to laugh it off, failed. You're paranoid. Claire would have said something. She didn't have to. I was there. The silence between us stretched. The house hummed around it. Fridge motor, air vents, the faint tick of the hallway clock. She finally found her voice. You followed me? No, I said. I just happened to see something I wasn't supposed to. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice steadied. Whatever you think you saw, you're wrong. Ryan was helping me review some paperwork. Of course he was. She blinked, realizing the walls were closing in. You recorded me? I didn't answer. That was answer enough. She took a breath, forcing calm. Then I want a lawyer. You already have one, I said, walking past her toward the stairs. He's busy trying to explain to the bar association why client money keeps disappearing. Her breath caught. What did you do? Nothing illegal, I said. Just told the truth. It's a habit I'm trying to keep. When I reached the top step, she whispered, You're ruining everything. I turned back. No, Mara. You did that yourself. I left her standing there, staring at the empty space where her safety used to be. The next 3 days unfolded like clockwork. Ryan's firm got a formal inquiry from the bar association. 2 of his clients terminated their contracts. The rumor mill did the rest. Mara's friends started calling less, texted even less. By Friday, she couldn't buy coffee without her card declining. I stayed quiet, showed up to work, shook hands, delivered projects. Every night I came home, ate dinner, asked about her day as if nothing had changed. The calm drove her crazy. Then Saturday morning came, and with it a message from Claire. Dad, are you and Mom okay? Ryan's acting weird. I stared at the phone for a long time before typing back. We're fine, honey. Don't worry about us. I couldn't tell her yet. But soon, she'd know the kind of man she married and the kind of woman who raised her. I looked at the workshop window, where morning light cut through dust like a search beam. Secure the frame, I said again, to no one. And somewhere inside that quiet, I knew the structure was holding. By Monday morning, the storm had officially moved from whispers to paper. Jess texted before dawn. Bar Association called your boy in for a formal ethics review Thursday morning. They've already frozen his trust account. I read it twice, letting the words settle. Thursday morning. That meant he'd spend the next 3 days spinning, calling, pleading, trying to find someone who could fix it. He'd learned the hard way that paperwork doesn't answer panic. I left the house before Mara woke. The road was empty, wet from night rain, the kind of stillness that makes you hear your own breathing. I pulled into the diner near the river, the one where contractors meet over burnt coffee, and waited. Jess showed up at 7:10, hair pulled back, laptop bag slung over one shoulder. She slid into the booth. Phase 2, she asked. I nodded. We're past protection. Now we move to recovery. She handed me a file folder. Everything you need to start the separation cleanly. The assets she can't touch are boxed in blue. The ones she'll fight for are in red. Any moves on her end? She's been calling banks all weekend. Tried to open a new account under her maiden name. Denied. Also, Jess hesitated. She met Ryan at a cafe yesterday. Same one where you and I sat last month. My brother followed. I looked up, and he recorded the whole thing. They're panicking. He's telling her to file for a restraining order. Claim financial abuse. Classic reversal. I let out a small, tired laugh. Of course. They'll probably do it tomorrow, Jess said. If you want to stay ahead, we need to bring this to your lawyer today. I'll handle it, I said. By 9:30, I was in James Morrison's office downtown. He'd been my corporate attorney for 15 years, gray-haired, quiet, allergic to drama. He listened while I played the first half of the recording, Mara and Ryan's voices threading through the speakers like poison. When it ended, he leaned back, fingers steepled. This isn't just betrayal, he said finally. It's conspiracy to defraud. He outlined what would happen next. If she files for a restraining order, we counter immediately. We present the recording privately to the judge and request dismissal with prejudice. The audio alone dismantles any claim she might make. And Ryan. James smiled faintly. The Bar Association will handle him. By the end of the week, he'll be radioactive. He paused. Evan, once we pull this trigger, there's no going back. She'll lose everything. She already threw it away, I said. That night, the doorbell rang at 8. Mara stood there with a folder in her hand. Her face was pale, but her voice was composed. I'm filing tomorrow, she said. You've made this impossible. I looked at the folder. Restraining order? She didn't answer. I expected more creativity, I said. Her eyes hardened. You froze me out. You humiliated me. You think this makes you noble? It makes me careful. Careful doesn't save you, she said. Control ruins everything it touches. I stepped aside. Come in, Mara. Let's not do this on the porch. She hesitated, then walked past me. The air between us felt thick, electric. I gestured toward the couch. You want a drink? No. I sat across from her, hands folded. You met Ryan yesterday. She flinched. You had someone follow me? I didn't need to. You two are predictable. Her mask slipped for a moment, then came back. You think you're smarter than everyone. That's your problem. I don't need to be smarter, I said quietly. Just patient. She stood, clutching the folder. I'll see you in court. You will, I said. Bring him with you. Thursday came faster than I expected. The courthouse smelled of old paper and floor polish. Judge Hendricks presided, stern eyes, clipped tone. Mara sat at the plaintiff's table beside her new lawyer, hands clasped like a frightened saint. Ryan was nowhere to be seen. The judge adjusted her glasses. Mrs. Mercer, you're alleging financial and emotional abuse. Can you describe specific incidents? Mara's voice trembled on cue. He restricts my access to accounts, monitors my spending, threatens to cut me off when I disagree. And you have evidence? She hesitated. Not physical evidence, Your Honor, but... James stood. If I may, Your Honor, we have an audio recording that will clarify the circumstances. The judge gestured. Proceed. James pressed play. Mara's voice filled the courtroom. Don't worry. He still trusts me completely. Evan doesn't even look at half the things he signs. Ryan's voice followed. Once we file, you'll walk away with half the assets. Maybe more. The judge's expression froze. She let the recording run for 10 minutes before lifting her hand. That's enough. Silence. Mara's lawyer leaned back, eyes wide. Mara herself sat motionless, color draining from her face. The judge turned toward her. Mrs. Mercer, do you have an explanation? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No sound came out. I'm dismissing this petition with prejudice, Judge Hendricks said, and I'm referring the matter to the district attorney's office for review of potential perjury and attempted fraud. The gavel hit once, sharp as a hammer strike. James packed the folders slowly, deliberately. Mara didn't move. When I stood, she finally looked at me. Anger, disbelief, fear all mixed together. I leaned in just enough for her to hear. You built this house, I whispered. You should have checked the foundation. 2 weeks later, the Bar Association disbarred Ryan Peters for trust fund violations totaling over $100,000. He resigned before the decision hit the papers, then left town. Mara moved into a small apartment near the mall. She took a retail job, something part-time, something to keep her busy. Claire filed for divorce quietly, citing irreconcilable differences. I kept working. The company didn't just survive, it grew. Clients doubled, referrals poured in. People like stories with clean endings. They make them feel safe. At night, the house felt quieter, but honest. No more staged laughter or polite questions. Just the hum of the fridge and the sound of rain on the roof I'd built myself. Sometimes, when I walk through the hall, I catch sight of a photo from years ago. Mara smiling at a company picnic, arm around my waist, both of us sunburned and happy. I leave it there, not as a memory of love, but as proof that I survived believing in it. Because now I know the difference between love and performance. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Tell us where you are watching from and what you think of this story.